Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey, Jason, John, Pauline, Dylan, Mel. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. The WBC World Baseball Classic 2026 is over. The USA's underdog miracle run has ended in a 3-2 loss to Venezuela.
Were they the underdogs though? I feel like they
No,
they were.
should have been because Venezuela was better the whole tournament than the U.S. Same with the Dominican Republic.
Sound like Juan Soto over there. We all know who the best team was.
I mean, that's got to be embarrassing. If you're
1 year of being on the crappy loser Mets, and the culture already rubs off on them.
I mean, that's just childish. You know that.
Yeah, let's talk about that instead of the final. Yeah.
We could start off with that. So let's run through the playoff bracket. You had South Korea versus the Dominican. The DR won to go to the semis. The U.S. defeated
Austin
Canada.
Wells, Dominican hero, walks that game off.
The U.S. defeats Canada. So in other words, water wet, grass green. DR, U.S. Then on the flip side, Italy defeats Puerto Rico. Italy goes to the semis for the first time ever. Venezuela knocks out Japan in the first round. The Japanese coach now leaves Team Japan. So Samurai Japan are now without their manager because he could not face, losing in the first round. So Venezuela, Italy, US, DR in the semis. Italy, Venezuela, great game. Venezuela comes out on top. DR, US. US wins a nail biter. And then Soto after the game says...
and on a perfect strike from Mason Miller. I don't think there's any doubt how much of a strike that pitch was for Mason Miller to close out the DR game.
I mean, even beyond that, why are you focusing on that as the reason you lost and not, getting thrown out at third?
Or all the other times they left runners on base, throughout, I think what they let a guy on second and third, bases loaded, I think too, right? And you could not score a run.
You had so many opportunities if you're the Dominican Republic. That's just a cherry on top. You almost deserve to lose because you couldn't capitalize.
And then the U.S. deserved to lose.
U.S. deserved to lose because they just sucked all tournament.
And because Tarik Skubal hates America.
We've been saying Skubal, not an American hero.
Imagine ranking Tarik Skubal as your best pitcher in baseball. The guy has no heart, no guts.
Couldn't be me.
His agent.
The guy has no guts.
If I'm looking at Tarik Skubal for agency, I might, shy away now. He doesn't have what it takes.
Yeah, if I'm the Dodgers, they're going to be in a ton of big games. They should shy away. Now, the Yankees, they're not in a lot of big games, so they should get them.
Is Skubal a guy that wants the ball in a big game? It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
I mean, even Paul Skeens, he probably could have pitched the final. We didn't really need him in pool play. He should have just pitched the quarterfinal and the final, or however that shook out.
He did pitch a must-win game against what was on paper the best opponent we were going to face.
Actually, they might have needed him in pool play more because, let's be real, this Team USA did not hit at all very much throughout this whole tournament, and that's kind of been the whole story.
Yeah, the offense was putrid. Bryce Harper finally broke through with the big home run in the 8th versus Venezuela to tie it at 2-2. So that raw milk finally kicking in. But for somebody who is not elite, that was a pretty elite moment.
I'll also say this. We talked about it at the start of the WBC, but this is why we talked up how good it was going to be, because there was a lot of different teams that could win that we knew of. We knew of Puerto Rico. We knew of the Dominican Republic. We knew the U.S. We knew Japan were top-tier contenders. And then we saw teams like Italy and Venezuela, who ultimately won it, kind of overperform.
Venezuela, their whole roster is virtually...
they overperformed projection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But, it's not like Venezuela is some scrappy team of guys that, just went on a run. They're all, incredibly talented major leaguers. You're led by Ronald Acuna Jr., Wilyer Abreu, Salvador Perez, like these.
Oh yeah, I just
Yeah.
like they weren't a top tier favorite when the tournament
they were
started.
probably like that second tier below.
Mhm.
Like it was like the DR, US, and Japan as that top tier.
Yeah.
Followed by like Venezuela, Puerto Rico. Like they were like that next level of they'll be scrappy, but they probably won't do it. And then Venezuela turned that on everybody's head. Like
and we're going to talk about him today. Wilyer Abreu, back-to-back games of really clutch hitting, and Boston's going to need him. So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about that, but like a good sign for Boston with how Wilyer Abreu played, and even for Team USA, Roman Anthony kind of called up at the last moment with the Corbin Carroll injury. Obviously struck out as the last out in this game, but he was pretty phenomenal.
One of their best hitters.
Yeah, this whole World Baseball Classic final had the Red Sox stamp all over it.
Mhm.
Abreu, Whitlock, Roman Anthony, like they had their guys out representing, and the guys have a lot of talent. Like the Red Sox have a lot of really good players, but obviously the U.S. loses 3-2 back-to-back years. Japan last year, Venezuela this year. The offense never got going, and the pitching, like, how do we think McLean did?
I mean, I think as good as expected.
Considering how he did against Italy, I mean,
like here's what
pretty good.
If you said Noel McLean was going to go about 6 innings and give up 2 runs beforehand, and you could see, but you didn't know anything about the tournament, but you said USA is going to be in the final, Noel McLean's going to pitch 6 innings, 2 runs, and you knew our lineup, you'd sign up for that.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's what it's not on him.
No, it's not. It's on the offense for not giving him anything and making Erod, look like an ace, after those injury-filled years. It's just disappointing to see, Bobby Witt not really play well. Harper not play well outside that 1 home run. Judge had a couple home runs, but really wasn't anything special.
Yeah, in the elimination games, he was more defensive than offensive in terms of highlights.
Schwarber might as well have gone up there without a bat in his hands. Cal Raleigh got benched for Will Smith because Raleigh couldn't touch a pitch.
Yeah, by the way, that was the guy who was supposed to be MVP last year.
If you know, a lot of the good players were like the younger players on the team were the ones doing most of the hitting.
I mean, Gunnar Henderson was probably team MVP.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson, Roman Anthony, Pete Crow Armstrong.
Well, here, what do we think about? Let's start off with Mark DeRosa, USA manager, starting Bregman over Henderson today.
I didn't get that. I mean,
I think it was just for the lefty matchup.
Well, yeah, but he left him in too long, I think.
Bregman's numbers versus Rodriguez are very good. They were the best team.
I mean, he played the matchup versus DR, so he played the matchup again.
I think you both are right, though, that they probably should have went to Henderson much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just put your good players in no matter the matchup.
I also just don't think happen. I mean, I don't know what the numbers and splits were, but PCA should have been in over Buxton just from the jump.
Yep. Like what? I can't even think of a reason. At least with Bregman, again, the numbers, the history's there. It just what's the deal there? PCA is a much better defender.
Like Buxton's a good player, but PCA is better at everything. I mean, this is like an all-star level team,
and he's been hitting better too.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, that's where the buck stops. We know he's a better defender, but he's hitting better right now anyway. So there's just no reason for Buxton. And then it's weird where you brought a guy like Paul Goldschmidt to be that righty off the bench to face lefty pitching, and you leave him out there and leave those lefty on lefty matchups that aren't working. That seems like a waste of a roster spot where you could have got somebody better there.
Yeah.
Bryce Terang, I think, had a very nice tournament defensively, offensively.
I mean, Bobby Witt was also really good defensively.
He was, but, the 5-tool star that he is, I expected a lot more out of him.
I agree. We were just talking about guys that were stepping up defensively.
I mean, I think Harper had a couple nice plays at first base.
Yep.
Will Smith.
I mean, the team ultimately did make the finals. So
they did, but I feel like at no point did I ever feel confident and happy with how they were playing.
No. I mean, I felt like I was watching the Yankees.
Yeah, it really did.
I mean, like John, like I don't know if this felt like a Phillies experience for
It
you,
felt
but if
like
not,
watching the
this is
Phillies in the
exactly
playoffs.
okay.
Like the
Yeah,
last couple of years. Yeah, it
like
felt
our
like where
teams
you're
are
just
mirror images in the playoffs, and this game, I mean, to no surprise, batting in the 2, Philly, batting in the 3, Yankee, batting in the 4, Philly, and they sucked in the big spots.
Yep.
This,
No,
I mean,
it's sad, disappointing, embarrassing how
Yep.
team. We're talking about a team that went to the final and lost by 1 run, but it feels like an embarrassment of a tournament for the the United States.
Well, they didn't
Well,
look good all tournament.
they didn't have an impressive outing.
None.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to give credit to the bullpen. Guys like Miller and Bednar were lights out. Incredible.
I mean, before tonight, Whitlock didn't allow a run.
Yeah, Whitlock
So,
was.
Yes.
I obviously the 1 run came in a
At the
crappy
worst time.
spot, but that was the only run he allowed the whole tournament.
Yeah. So I mean,
Don't
the
forget
ball-
Griffin Jacks too.
yeah,
Very
Jacks.
solid.
Juju Yankee.
It's the bullpen pitched well, and usually you feel like the starters do fine and the bullpen loses it, and I feel like it's been the other way around where even Skeens gives up a couple.
Why I said it. It felt exactly like watching the Yankees
where the starters kind of don't put you in
in the playoffs, at least.
Bullpen locks it down.
Yeah.
Now, the room I think right now also is Aaron Judge and his big game, postseason, high leverage, clutch success. Statistically, he's among the most clutch players, in the league.
I thought he performed well enough in the last playoffs that at this point it's just a meme.
Yes, but also he kind of lost all that goodwill because, what have you done for me lately?
I disagree.
People are clowning him for his performance.
I disagree because this is a very small sample size.
Now, I have noticed, just looking on Twitter, and
he also drew a ton of walks.
He did. But looking on Twitter, seeing how people are reacting, one, it seemed like the Yankee fans embraced the World Baseball Classic where they were rooting for a Gunnar Henderson and a Roman Anthony and really weren't caring about that AL East rivalry. Even with the Mets, with McLean, it was all about Team USA. It seemed like the league as a whole, nobody really wanted to root for Judge. Everything was just like Judge is overrated this, Judge that.
They're all still mad that he won the MVP.
So weird to me how we're watching one of the greatest hitters ever, possibly the greatest hitter that we'll ever see, and people just don't want to root for him because he's a Yankee. He's not clutch, even though 2 home runs. He had the game-winning home run versus Mexico, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, started off the World Baseball Classic versus Brazil with a home run. Some big hits over the last couple of days. He didn't get it done today, but it's not like he didn't perform. There are other guys on Team USA that performed much less, and he's kind of shielding them from getting a lot of that flack.
Hey, best player on the team, captain of the team, you're going to wear it, is what it is.
Do we have any final thoughts on the World Baseball Classic, or are we ready to move on to talk some AL East ball?
I think it's only going to get more competitive.
Absolutely. All right. Time to talk some East. Saving the best division for the last. Like always, we'll go through last year's standings and then each team. So the Blue Jays won the division, 94-68. They were the 1 seed. The Yankees also were 94-68. Lost a tiebreaker. They were a wild card. Red Sox also a wild card at 89-73. Tampa Bay, 4th place, 77-85. Followed by the Orioles in last place, 75-87. Boston, as the 5 seed, they lost the wild card to the Yankees, 2-1. Yankees were the 4 seed. This was the first time ever a team lost game 1 of the wild card and then went on to win games 2 and 3. The Yankees, the 4 seed, lost the ALDS 3-1 to Toronto, who was the top seed. Toronto, the top seed, beat Seattle, the 2 seed, 4-3 in the ALCS, and then went on to lose in 7, 4-3 to the Dodgers in the World Series. So let's talk some O's. John's Orioles. They added Chris Bassett, the starter, 1 year, 18 and a half. Zach Eflin, 1 year for 10. Pete Alonso, big signing there, first base, 5 for 155. Ryan Helsley to be a high leverage reliever, 2 for 28. And then Leody Taveras, the outfielder, 1 for 2. They traded for Andrew Kitteridge from the Cubs, a reliever, Taylor Ward from the Angels, Shane Baz from Tampa Bay, a starter, Jackson Kowar, a reliever from Minnesota, Blaze Alexander, a utility man from Arizona, and Peyton Eels, a utility man from Minnesota. They lost Dylan Carlson to the Cubs. Gary Sanchez, he went to Milwaukee. Sean Dubin went to Arizona. He's a pitcher. Tomoyuki Sugano, we talked about earlier a couple weeks ago. He went to Colorado as a free agent. Jorge Mateo, the shortstop, he's a Brewer. Or actually, he's a Brave. Alex Jackson, the catcher, was traded to Minnesota. Grayson Rodriguez, and we talked about this trade when it happened. He went to the Angels. Very surprising move there.
I still don't understand that one.
Your young ace. So we know the offense, especially with the addition of Alonso, is going to be great. So my questions are, how does adding Alonso change this offensive ceiling? And have they improved their pitching enough to compete with the other teams in their division?
I'll let you start, John.
Well, I mean, having Alonso in the lineup helps a ton because you get that, veteran presence to really anchor the lineup in with, especially with his power and his bat there really helps a lot. But pitching wise, I don't, they did literally, I think they didn't even do the bare minimum with pitching wise. I mean, you traded away Grace Rodriguez for Taylor Ward, which is a head scratcher when it happened, and especially more of a head scratcher after they signed Alonso. Because the whole point is you get a little power with Taylor Ward, but then you go out and get Alonso, who's going to be your, cornerstone power bat of that lineup. And then look at the Tyler Ward trade and you're like, why? Especially with all the young talent they have on this team that you feel like they can just kind of plug in anywhere. And pitching wise, I mean, Bassett's okay, innings eater. Shane Baz. I mean, when
you're starting off ace of staff, it's okay. Innings eater.
I mean, it's the thing. I mean, Eflin. I just I don't know what they're doing here.
How about the bullpen? Helsley at closer.
I mean, they got the bullpen stuff, and I think Felix Batista should be back, right?
He should be back,
but
he'll be the closer when he comes back.
So, and he was lights out when he was healthy. So you're hoping that he comes back like that. But other than that, line was probably good, and the line has been good, but the pitching's still not where it needs to be, and not even close.
I mean, this lineup construction is idiotic to me. And this is what I said about the Orioles last year. I got some flack, commenters, co-hosts, whoever, about suggesting that this team was going to miss the playoffs because some people were predicting them to go to the World Series on this podcast. And I was like, this is insane. They're not even going to make the playoffs. And then they didn't. And Baltimore doubled down on the strategy of, we make ball go far, who cares about pitching? And it's just not a successful strategy over 162. Maybe they prove me wrong, and maybe they finally have enough offense to where it doesn't matter. But for me, in the philosophy that I look at baseball in, over 162, pitching matters more than hitting, because hitting's always going to fluctuate over that long of a time period. But having the best consistent pitchers is your pathway to victory. It's just kind of how I view the game. So when I look at this Baltimore lineup and team construction, I hate it. And it's not even me being a hater of an in-division team. I think Gunnar Henderson is outstanding. I loved watching him in the World Baseball Classic. Pete Alonso is a fantastic signing in a vacuum. Adley Rutschman, one of the best catchers in the game. The Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward deal just doesn't make sense to me, because Rodriguez was your only hope at an ace. Now you have Bassett, Baz, Rogers, Bradish, Eflin, Kremer. On a World Series team, that's the fourth or fifth best pitcher. that's your best guys.
I mean, who is their ace? Who do we think their number one is? It Braddock?
I think it's Bassett, who they just signed less than a month ago.
And then Bassett, who was on the World Series, Blue Jays last year, and was he their ace or their two? Or
I don't think he pitched. So, listen, I mean, Baz is young. He's got good stuff, but I don't think it's ace potential. And I don't like the bullpen. Bautista comes back and he's excellent, cool, but even outside of him, Helsling, Kittredge, I'm just not bought into this team. And I know Orioles fans are going to be mad at me. It is what it is. That's why I let John go first. But
and I mean, I wasn't too optimistic.
John, and for people who are new, John has been optimistic and been rooting for.
I've been very high on the Orioles.
We call the Browns Orioles for a reason.
Yeah.
This is just not a team that I could put faith in. I think maybe they'll realize it come deadline and they'll move a Tyler O'Neill and a Mountcastle and something to acquire pitching, but they need multiple starters.
They should have been all over Cease. They should have been all over Framber Valdez.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't. And that's what I think is going to be a reason that they get held back, is that the pitching just isn't up to snuff. You have, again, the Blue Jays offense, which we saw was incredible. We all know what the Yankees could do. The Red Sox offense is young and exciting. I mean, Tampa Bay has one of the most electric players in baseball in Junior Caminero.
Yep.
How are the Orioles going to compete with all that from a pitching standpoint? And they're just not.
What's the average number of runs the Orioles are going to have to score in wins this year? 6?
At least 5 or 6, definitely.
Yeah, it's too high. In my opinion, it's too high of a number to ask your lineup to consistently hit in this division.
Let's go on to the Tampa Bay Rays. They added Nick Martinez as a starter, 1 for 13. Steven Matz to relieve, 2 for 15. Cedric Mullins, 1 for 7. And Jake Fraley, 1 for 3, an outfielder. They traded for Gavin Lux, the infielder from Cincy. Steven Wilson, a reliever from the White Sox. Ken Waldichuk, a starter from Atlanta. Ben Williamson, an infielder from Seattle. Yoendrys Gomez, a pitcher from the White Sox. But they lost Adrian Hauser to San Fran, Christopher Morel to Miami, Stuart Fairchild to Cincy, Pete Fairbanks to Miami, Shane Baz they traded to Baltimore, Jake Mangum, an outfielder, they traded away to Pittsburgh. Brandon Lau, second baseman, traded to Pittsburgh. Eric Orzi traded to Minnesota. Cameron Misner traded to Kansas City. Mason Montgomery traded to Pittsburgh. Josh Lau traded to the Angels. Everson Pereira traded to the White Sox. So they made a lot of moves. And the Rays' MO the last decade or so has kind of been high turnover, high upside.
Don't spend money, but find a way to compete.
And for a while, that seemed to be what was keeping them ahead of the fray in the league.
I mean, I think the division's just caught up to them.
Well, so is that organizational model where you have a lot of platoons, you focus on defense flexibility. Let's see, they had that pitching lab that just was ahead of the game. They have constant turnover in the lineup. Is that still ahead of the curve, or has everybody in the league and the division caught up to how they play the game?
I don't think it's dead, because I still think that, I mean, how many games did they win last year? 80?
They won 77.
77. They still flirted with 80. They got a young player in Caminero getting better. Their pitching staff isn't too bad. Rousmanson, Pepiot, if McClanahan could stay healthy, but yeah, Mats. I'll be surprised if Yandy Diaz is on the team past the trade deadline. He's a guy that we heard at last year's deadline, and he didn't get moved. I honestly think the division's just too competitive right now for their play style. But the second you count out the Tampa Bay Rays, they go and win 90 games and they win the division. So I know better than to completely write them off. They're going to be an annoyance. They're going to be a really competitive team and a thorn in the side of every team in this division that's trying to compete right now. I just don't think it's their turn to be good, but I don't think that we need to rip into them organizationally the way that we do the Rockies or the White Sox or the Athletics. Like it's still,
they were just They were the gold standard. At one point.
You wish they'd spend more money, obviously, but at the end of the day, they've been pretty competitive for the last 2 decades. They've had some really strong players, from Longoria to Rosarena to now Caminario. Like, it's not a team that doesn't have good players ever.
Right. I mean, we also know that they did try to trade for Ohtani at the deadline before he was a free agent, and they probably made the best offer from everything that's been released. And, Caminero headlined that. Imagine Caminero on the Angels, Ohtani getting half a season in Tampa Bay. Like, it's not like they don't try when they're good, but
I mean,
they're missing. Is it money or just is it cyclical with the Rays?
Both.
and I think the East, the AL East, finally kind of got better than it was for a while. Because I mean, you have like the Red Sox starting to come back, and I mean the Blue Jays, Yankees are still good, and even the Orioles got better. So it's like,
I mean, this is always one of the most competitive divisions in baseball too. It's not like there's like ever a down year. Listen, we all know that the Rays can sometimes be viewed as a cheap organization, but I think when you have the track record of developing talent the way that they do, I mean, they were in the World Series not too long ago, so.
And they put together competitive teams year in and year out. I mean,
I think if you're a Rays fan, you can trust the process. Do I think I'd have high hopes for this year? Not necessarily, but would I completely rule out a playoff season? No.
Now, is there an impact bat on this team other than Cabanero? Is there somebody we trust?
I mean, I like Diaz. I think Diaz is a good bat for sure.
Good bat, but also he's somebody that we're surprised he hasn't been moved.
But I'll say this, with the Rays, that's kind of the beauty of their model. You go into the year and you're like, you know who the best players are, and then all of a sudden they got a couple guys that are producing more than you thought they would.
All right, now on to the Red Sox. The Red Sox, they added Danny Colomé, a reliever, 1 year, $1 million. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, IKF signed for 1 year, $6 million. Ranger Suarez from the Phillies, 5 years, $130. They traded for Sonny Gray to be a starter. Wilson Contreras, first base, which was a big hole for them. Caleb Durbin to play second base from Milwaukee. Andrew Monasterio, an infielder from Milwaukee. Johan Oviedo, starter from Pittsburgh, the hard thrower. Anthony Siegler, an infielder catcher from Milwaukee. But they lost Steven Matz to Tampa. Josh Winkowski went to Toronto. Justin Wilson, still a free agent. Nathaniel Lowe, first baseman, he's on Cincy. Rob Refsnyder went to Seattle. He was a big platoon bat for them. Dustin May went to St. Louis. Jose De Leon, he's still a free agent. They lost Liam Hendricks to Minnesota. Alex Bregman went to the Cubs. Lucas Giolito, still a free agent. Hunter Dobbins, they traded him to St. Louis. Brennan Bernardino, he was traded to Colorado. Kyle Harrison traded to Milwaukee. Jordan Hicks traded to the White Sox. David Hamilton traded to Milwaukee. Josh Nixon Garcia, the password, traded to Pittsburgh. Richard Fitz also sent to St. Louis. So you lose a lot of guys. And I think my first question around the Red Sox, was the 2025 season the norm, or was that a fluky year for them?
TBD. I mean, predictive-wise, without getting into predictions, I think that this team is young with a very, very bright future. I mean, Roman Anthony got that extension for a reason. Marcel Mayer is the starting second baseman for a reason. They went out and got Caleb Durbin for a reason. Rafaela is there for a reason. Like, these young guys.
Well,
and they even got some young pitchers too, man. Tolley, early.
Connerly, right?
Yeah.
How does Boston deal with losing Bregman? They're such a young team. They lose his leadership, his experience winning big games. Now you bring in a Wilson Contreras and a Sonny Gray, but they don't have that level of winning that Bregman, brings to the table.
Well, I don't think the answer is what you expect. And I think that the answer was the correct move. They pivoted to pitching.
Yep.
The way that you cover up for Bregman is by not needing as much offense. I would venture to say starters and bullpen pitching totality, it's the best in the division. They have the very best starter in Crochet. If Chapman is anything like last year, they have the best closer. Sonny Gray, Ranger Suarez, Brian Bayo, all starters you could believe in. They got young pieces in Tolley and Early. They got older pieces in Crawford, Sandoval that can eat innings. Whitlock, Weiser, Columbi, Canely. They have countless arms at the bullpen you trust. If these young guys are a hit, this could be a juggernaut.
Scary.
Scary hours.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. And, you know, it pains me. And I think they have so very few like noticeable holes. Like, I don't know if I believe in Wilson Contreras on the Red Sox as a first baseman. I think that's an area that they need to improve on long term, but they're fine this year. Their outfield defense is fine. Yep, they have a lot of guys playing out of position. Meyer wasn't the greatest shortstop, I don't think, but he's going to be their starting shortstop with Durbin playing second. I do think that an outfield of Abreu, Roman Anthony, and Rafaela in center is for the best, but they have shown in the past last year that they don't like to put their best, you know, combination out there. What does Masataka Yoshida bring?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have some pieces that, I think that they're a team that at the deadline can take a look and see where the young guys are at, see where they need help, and they have pieces to flip. Duran, Yoshida, IKF. You have enough bullpen arms. Shoot, if you had to include one of them in a deal, you could survive.
I mean, we named all those guys, and then we finally got to Duran, who just, 2 years ago was an all-star, great player.
I mean, and I'm sure somebody is interested in Tristan Casas. Like, this is a prospect who had higher expectations, hasn't lived up to them, but it doesn't mean that if you're, say, the Rockies and Boston calls you up and says, what's the price on Ezekiel Tovar? Casas and what? That they can't fill out the and what.
And I mean, Boston still has Trevor Story.
Right. Like there's
a lot
of different avenues for this team to go.
I don't know what their makeup's going to be because you have a lot of younger guys that should be getting playing time that are blocked by some older guys that aren't the future, like a Story or a Duran. And it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of break that down. Moving David Hamilton was probably for the best. He was getting, he was blocking some way, but I'm curious how that's going to shake out.
Yeah.
Now, for the Yankees.
Heard the disappointment in his voice.
They added in free agency, they brought back Paul Goldschmidt, 1 year, $4 million. They brought back Cody Bellinger, 5 year, $162.5. They brought back Paul Blackburn, 1 for $2 million. They brought back Ahmed Rosario, 1 for $2.5 million. They brought back Ryan Yarborough, 1 for $2.5 million. They brought back Trent Grisham on the qualifying offer. They did trade for Max Schumann from the A's, Ryan Weathers from Miami, Angel Civilli from the Rockies. But they lost Devin Williams to the Mets, Luke Weaver to the Mets, Mark Leiter Jr. to the A's, Scott Effross to the Tigers, Jake Cousins, still a free agent, Ian Hamilton, he's on Atlanta now, Jonathan Loaizaga is with Arizona. Is running it back going to work out? Like, They were a good team in the regular season. I think they probably underwhelmed overall, even though they're a good offensive team. And
I don't think they underwhelmed in the regular season. They won 94 games in a year that no team did. Milwaukee didn't get to 100.
No.
So in a year that nobody got to 100, they had the most runs scored and got to 94 wins.
When I say underwhelmed, I mean they didn't win the division. They tied for the top of the division.
Okay, they tied at 94 wins. And they were coming off an offseason where they lost Juan Soto.
Right.
And Garrett Cole was hurt too.
Yeah. Like the fact that they won 94 games and tied, this team achieved perfectly fine in the regular season.
What
The
about
problem is they're not built for the postseason. So when you talk about this team, are they going to be good over 162 this year? Yeah, like they're going to be good again. They're probably only can improve. I mean, we had to watch starts of DJ LeMahieu, Ryan Yarbrough, Carlos Cookie Carrasco was pitching games for this team. I mean, they won 94 games. You're gonna have Garrett Cole.
Got some starts.
You're gonna have Garrett Cole back at some point. You now have Cam Schlittler. You have a Luis Heel earlier this season. You have a team that's used to playing together at this point. You do have depth in terms of in the outfield. You have Bellinger, Judge, Grisham, Grichuk, Dominguez. You have in the infield McMahon, Rosario, Volpe, Caballero, Chisholm, Ben Rice, Goldschmidt. Austin Wells looked fantastic in the WBC. If he carries that over, that only raises the ceiling of the team. Pitching wise, Fried, Rodon, Cole, Schlittler, Warren, Gill, Weathers, Schmidt. The bullpen.
We aren't likely to see Schmidt much, if at all, this year.
Right. I mean, out of the bullpen, Bednar, Duvall, Cruz, Hill, Bird. It's not a great bullpen. However, I will say if Matt Blake has kind of gotten good at one thing, it's making guys that you don't know out of the bullpen be good. So I have no doubts about the Yankees being a good competitive regular season team. But like I've said a lot of times on this podcast, the team is not built for postseason success. This lineup is fantastic over 162 because the analytics over 162 will give you excellent at-bats. Trent Grisham, analytically over 162, looks like a fantastic leadoff hitter until you're in a playoff series against the best of the best. And then he's not a contact guy. And if he gets a home run, great. If not, it's an unproductive at-bat. The Yankees, I'm willing to see where things are at post-trade deadline because I don't think that there needs to be any rush to go acquire guys right now, especially when you're considering who was your main trade pieces. Will Warren, Luis Heel. Well, Rodon and Cole are hurt to open the year. Having those guys to eat innings in April and May is actually beneficial for the New York Yankees. Then you flip them at the deadline for, hey, if the Guardians aren't good, who would be a fantastic leadoff hitter? Stephen Kwan. Or, just somebody else who's having a good season. But they have to complete that process.
Now, we talked about the offense over 162. We know what Aaron Judge is, but we also know that behind Judge and beyond him, the team severely lacks consistency. Is there somebody is Bellinger's 2025 going to be the best we see out of him in pinstripes? Does Ben Rice,
I think Bellinger will have another good year. I think Bellinger, his plate approach and the ballpark is made for him. I think the two biggest X factors for the Yankees are Ben Rice and Austin Wells. I think those two guys have the potential and ability to become 30, 35 plus home run guys. And if you reach that category, you're going to see a very hard to match up against offense.
Now, take Aaron Judge out of the equation, and let's take Ben Rice because I think we both would say Ben Rice is the answer. Who is the most exciting player you're looking forward to seeing on this offense?
Ben Rice wouldn't be mine. I mean, Austin Wells. The way he performs the way Wells performed for the Dominican Republic, and the way that I thought Wells has improved year after year still. It's not like Anthony Volpe where there's been regression. I feel like Austin Wells has gotten better. I think Wells could be in for a monster year.
And you know what? I also like JC Escara. I think he, as a backup catcher, is more than serviceable. And then I like the flexibility that a Ben Rice brings as a third catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Allows you to do a lot of different things. On the pitching side, what pitcher are you most excited to see this year?
I mean, we're all going to say Schlittler.
I would say Schlittler's the obvious one. I'm also really excited to see Ryan Weathers.
Yeah, he's been looking nasty. Cole back as well. This is the thing with the Yankees. I think that they are built for solid regular season success right now, And I think if they make a couple moves for some contact hitters, you can start thinking World Series. Because the pitching rotation, if you can get to September healthy, is going to be nasty. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
If you get there with Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schlittler, and whoever's the next best, Weathers, Heel, Schmidt could be back by then, and you get a contact bat or two and a bullpen arm, and now all of a sudden you may have the best team in the AL.
The Yankees are in such a weird spot because they left such a bad taste last year, ending the way they did against the Blue Jays, and then to run back the same team. We talked about how Grisham accepting the qualifying offer kind of screwed their offseason. I have trouble thinking positively, knowing that they're not built for the playoffs. So we're going to go through these 162 and they're going to be fine. And then you get to October and it's just like, what are we doing? We're not built for this.
Well, that's Yankee baseball.
Any final thoughts on the Yankees before we go on to the Blue Jays?
Now we'll talk about them in the predictions part.
Blue Jay time. They brought back Max Scherzer, 1 year, $3 million. Tyler Rogers, 3 for 37. Cody Ponce, 3 for 30. Dylan Cease, 7 for 210. And then Kazuma Okamoto, first base, third baseman, 4 years, 60. They traded for Jesus Sanchez out of Houston. Chase Lee, a reliever from Detroit. They lost Joey Loperfido. They traded him to Houston. They lost Bo Bichette to the Mets. Chris Bassett went to Baltimore. Ty France went to San Diego. Sir Anthony Dominguez went to go win with the White Sox. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he went to Boston. And then Nick Sandlin, he is a reliever on the Angels. How does losing Bichette affect how this team is going to be played, how the lineup is? He was a great leadoff hitter.
I think people will jump to say not much because in the small sample we saw in the playoffs, they were fine. I would disagree. I think that in terms of consistency over 162, the offense is going to miss him. I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's going to suffer because they do have a guy in Ernie Clement. They brought in Okamoto. Jesus Sanchez is an interesting piece. If you get him to be his best, that could be really good. And then, of course, you still have Vladdy, you still have Kirk, you still have Springer. But I do think Bichette's impact will be missed because there's not really a guy when I'm looking at this lineup that jumps off as in the realm of Bichette contact wise. I think Springer had a really good year. I don't want to say fluke, but I don't know if it's as likely repeatable as Bichette's success.
Now, what does Toronto need to improve on in order to repeat AL East and American League champions?
I mean, I don't know if they have to improve on anything. I think stay the same. I think if you were just as good as you were last year, you could win the AL East again.
Well, I mean, again, like we said, they did lose Bichette, so you're going to need, another career year out of a couple guys. You're going to need Springer to not get bit by the age bug.
I'd like to see Vladdy have some more pop in his bat this year. If I was them, maybe an MVP caliber season out of Vladdy, because as good as Toronto was last year, we weren't talking about Vlad Guerrero Jr. as an MVP candidate.
He's somebody who I think has the potential that could hit 45 home runs. His bat is incredible.
The question for him, though, is can he bat above 290 and hit 40 home runs?
Right.
Can he merge? Because we've seen him hit a ton of home runs and we've seen him hit for contact. Can you merge both?
And it's very rare, and we rarely see players be able to do that.
But he has the abilities. We've seen him do both.
I don't think we've seen the best Vladdy that there is. And that's something that,
And he's really good defensively, too.
The switch from first base to first base, his defense is incredible. It is so
He's
underrated.
come down with some catches at first on line drives down right field that I've been like, whoa, dude.
I mean, you still have the black hole of Anthony Santander. I don't think that's going to get any better, and they're paying.
I don't
him
think that's going to get any play time.
they're paying him so much money too.
Yeah, well, it's not a salary cap sport, so
Yet
well, it doesn't matter yet.
Alejandro Kirk is a top whatever catcher in baseball, top 5 catcher. He is really, really good. I expect him to get better. He's also still relatively young. So they have a lot of young talent.
What's your confidence in this bullpen?
Not great.
Yeah. I mean, again, when we're talking about teams that we think could be World Series contenders, like Toronto, obviously, it's inches, not miles. We're going to be nitpicky. Like we all would agree, Toronto could be a World Series team. We all just saw it. But I think the lineup will be fine. I think Bichette will be missed, but I think there's some more pop there now. The starting pitching might have gotten better with FD's addition. The bullpen closing out close games, a bit of a concern.
But even the starting pitching, like I think that there are still some questions. Again, Cease is great. What is Bieber going to bring to the table?
Gausman is great.
Gausman is
They have
great.
two great two great starters.
Trey Savage.
Savage is
I think he's a question.
He's a question.
I think I have high expectations and high hopes, but I'm not
I
pinning
think
him
he
down
can be
as
really good.
excellent. It's also how is he going to hold up over 162?
I view him the same way I view Schlittler.
Yep.
Don't expect him to be an ace. Anything.
Who's the guy on the Brewers? His name's slipping my head.
Mizorowski, Jake Mizorowski.
Yeah, I think they're all in the same group. I think one or two of them will be aces, and one of them will probably be just a solid guy. Who's who? I don't know yet.
But then all 3 of them are rookies, and focusing on Trey Savage, who had an incredible postseason run.
He's got some nasty stuff.
But there is always going to be struggles with young pitchers, especially. Don't get too down on him if he struggles.
But they're deep enough to eat innings throughout the season.
Yes.
Cease, Gausman, Ponce, Savage, Bieber, Scherzer, Berrios. That's 7.
That's 7. Now I don't really like what Scherzer is at this point. I've never been.
Do I like what Scherzer is in a big time playoff game against Boston or Seattle or New York? No. Do I like what Scherzer is on a Thursday afternoon against the Rockies? Yeah.
Well, of course.
Well, but that's why they got him here. He's not here to pitch them postseason games. He's here to eat innings.
Put him through 162.
So let's bring this now all the way back around. Talk about how we feel this division's going to go. I'm going to read Pacoda. We'll go 5-1, say our predictions. Pacoda has the Tampa Bay Rays in last place, going 81-81.
Yeah, I have Tampa in last. 81 wins feels about right.
And we're talking about for a last place team, which is still pretty crazy. I have Tampa in last, and so does Ben.
And I also have Tampa in last.
Yeah, they feel like the easy choice across the board, which really scares me.
Pacoda has Boston in 4th at 83-79.
I have the Orioles in 4th. I think maybe 83-79 for the Orioles.
I am right there with you, and so is Ben. I think we're on the same page so far.
And so am I.
It was always going to be, how do you rank the top 3?
Yeah.
I think this top 3 is the closest top 3 in all of baseball. I think it can go in any order, and you can't be wrong. Pacoda has the Orioles in 3rd place, though, at 83-79.
I have the Toronto Blue Jays in 3rd place. I think
really.
I think the 2 teams above them, one of them has better pitching, one of them has a better regular season lineup. So, and you could hate all you want. Last year,
I also have the Blue Jays in 3rd. So I
was gonna say one team, one like the Yankees scored the most runs in baseball last year for 162.
I'm with you. Blue Jays in 3rd place. Same reasoning. I did have my 2nd place team and 3rd place team, and the Blue Jays switched. I had a couple times I wasn't sure who I wanted to put second, who I wanted to put third. I was pretty confident in who I think is first.
Yeah.
But I ended up going Toronto in third because I think we saw them almost at a height last year.
Yeah,
And I need to see them do it again.
I think it's possible last year was an outlier. Possible.
Ben has the Yankees in third place.
I have Boston in third.
Like we said, there is no wrong way to rank these three. I think it's going to be incredibly.
There is a correct way though, and it's
I feel like there is a more correct way. I don't think Yankees at third is.
I mean, right now,
correct.
your way and my way have been the same, Dylan. So maybe it'll just stay that way.
I don't think so.
Pacoda has the Yankees in second place at 88 and 74. Ben has Boston in second place.
I as well have Boston. I think that there's going to be some learning for that lineup, and I think that there's going to be some ups and some downs as the team figures out their identity. I think the pitching is more than enough to get them over the 90 win mark, and I think by the postseason they will be scarier than they are in April.
And I have the Blue Jays in second.
I have the Yankees in second. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. They ran it back.
Known Yankees hater.
They ran
Or
it back after winning 94 games and leading the league in runs.
And coming in second place.
Yeah, I guess so.
I've never seen someone so down on their own team.
I mean, listen, I'm just as down on the Yankees as Corey when it comes to the playoffs, but
I don't think in this case it's so much as me being down on the Yankees as me being really, really high on the team I have in first.
yeah, I mean, before you talk about that, we're on the topic of the Yankees. John and I both have them in first. My logic behind it is this lineup produced the most runs in baseball last year. That I know over 162 they're going to hit. They have the best hitter in the world in Aaron Judge, Bellinger, Grisham. I mean, I think there's
the contract year is going to be.
I think there's shots that Chisholm, Rice, Wells, two of the three of those guys have their best seasons yet. And when you look at the pitching rotation, again, they won 94 games last year without Garrett Cole pitching a game. They won 94 games last year with Yarbrough and Cookie Carrasco pitching multiple games. Stroman was starting multiple games. Like, you look at the rotation today, even if Cole doesn't start, Fried, Schlittler, Warren, Weathers, Heel is already better and more competent than what they had. And you have Cole and Rodon coming back. The bullpen is suspect. It's not as good on paper as it was last year, but last year's bullpen with Luke Weaver and Devin Williams didn't execute at a high level. So to me, in the regular season, I think it's silly to expect this team to be a sub 90 win team. And I think that 95 plus is on the board.
And then once they get the Rodon and Cole back, I think Heel is going to be the odd man out.
But then I think that you could pair Heel and Dominguez and get a real impact player at the deadline.
That, or if they don't, because who knows what the Yankees do, Heel in the bullpen as a multi-inning arm, a Dylan Betances type.
Yeah.
Go 2 innings. I think that would take that bullpen to I'm not so sure to.
I just think the lineup might be better. And they were already the best over 162 last year. And the pitching's definitely going to be better from a starting perspective.
And, last year they had Paul Goldschmidt start a lot. I don't think Goldschmidt's your starting first baseman. I think it has to be Rice.
And I mean, again, we talked about this a little bit last year when we talked about why we thought he should start, but the analytics are off the charts for that guy. Like,
and he had such a down year, unlucky wise.
There's a 30-plus home run season waiting in that guy, and he's the most handsome player in all of Major League Baseball. For those who don't know what Ben Rice looks like, look him up, look at me, and now you know who the most handsome player in baseball is.
All right, so who are playoff teams?
Wait. You had Boston at 1, right?
I had Boston at 1.
What about
Why?
Ben?
Ben had Toronto.
Ben and Toronto. Everything that we said about Boston, about what we think they could be with the young guys, the rotation, I think is going to happen. I think Whitlock.
But instantly.
I think they run at the gate hot with,
Okay.
Crochet.
That's the difference, because
Right.
I think if they run out the gate to where their potential is, then I think they will finish first. I don't think that they run out the gate hot.
I think we see them figure out how to position the team where we're not getting so much Duran, whereas we're getting an outfield of Anthony, Abreu, Rafaela, Story. I think Durbin brings a great athleticism, base running defense. Who knows if Wilson Contreras has a big year, but even if he doesn't, I like what they have in their catcher that they got from the Yankees, Narvaez. I think he had a good year last year. He's probably going to have a good year again. He's solid back there. I just really like how they're built. I think they have talent. And it's not just power strikeout, it's a lot of contact. They're going to play good defense. I mean, we saw them with Yoshida. They could bring out, as a DH who's just going to hit the ball. Won't go far, but it will go where you're not. And then best pitcher in baseball, possibly Garrett Crochet. Brian Bayo, I am very high on. My best second to Yamamoto.
Skeens, Yamamoto, then Crochet.
And then that's it, though. The Scooble doesn't get to touch the list anymore.
No.
And then, Bayo, Sonny Gray, who has experience in the AL East. Him coming back.
I guess you could call it that.
Hates the Yankees, so that brings another level. I'm really high on the Red Sox. I was high on them last year. They were a playoff team when a lot of people didn't think they were going to, finish in the top 3 in the division, that they were closer to last than first.
Yeah.
So I do think the Red Sox are going to be really, really scary, especially if they could take that step up.
Mm-hmm.
So who do we have in the playoffs? For me, Boston, Yankees, Toronto are all playoff teams.
Same in New York, Boston, Toronto.
What do we got, John?
For my playoff teams?
Yep.
Top 3, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox. Because I have 3 spots left.
I like how we have the
Yeah,
same 3 teams, but all 3 in different spots. Like just a different order for all 3 teams. It's kind of funny. That'll do it for us, really. Next week, talk some predictions. We'll say who we think is going to win the World Series. Do we get 3 Petes in the Cy Youngs or MVPs? Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year. What random American League pitcher am I going to select for Cy Young?
Ryan Weathers has a ring to it.
Trust me, that has crossed my mind.
I know it has. Ranger Suarez, Cy Young.
What National League pitcher am I going to give it to? The same guy 3 years in a row? Maybe.
Hunter Green?
Maybe.
Well,
Spoiler. Yes.
But we'll see. That's going to do it, though. John, Pauline, Dylan, Mel, Corey, Jason. It's been the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast, signing off.